be fair, ever since James has gone off, it's been more intellectual.
Has it?
Yes.
What, James Brown?
No. The worst James.
Ooh.
Right, I'm actually going to record a little behind the scenes clip now.
You like?
Okay.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen.
And welcome to
Episode 9 of
Keeping Up with the Keynesians.
Today we are going to be talking about climate change, the economics behind it, and the natural environment. Today I'm joined by Henry Roseff, the resident expert in the natural environment. How are you today, Henry?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Honoured to be here.
Brilliant. So, the UK has just experienced its wettest winter on record. Globally, heat waves, crop failures, and natural disasters are increasing everywhere. Climate change is not just a scientific issue, but it is also a political one, and most importantly, an economic one, which we will be discussing today. So let's start by looking at where the climate crisis is hitting the economy already. On my part, rising costs from extreme weather come about from flood damage to crop losses, infrastructure repairs, etc. For example, we saw with the LA wildfires, we saw a substantial loss from that, almost like 20 billion or something ridiculous.
Yes.
Not only does that have a severe social impact, but also an economic impact, like the money spent on aid, recovery, etc. But most importantly, climate change threatens our way of life through food prices, housing markets, and labour productivity. I mean, food prices, if we've had the agriculture, is being severely limited from climate change and so on. That could threaten yield, prices, and like the sustainability of farming in the future. Housing markets, I mean, we touched on the risk of issues like insurance and so on. And finally, labour productivity. I mean, we're struggling at the moment in the heat, boiling hot weather, that can threaten your productivity. I saw something earlier that said by 2030, 2 hours of the working week can be lost through environmental damage. So it's obviously a very big issue. But I'm going to move on to Henry now.
Yeah, so right, Ollie, I'd like to just pick up on a few things you're saying there. So the LA house fires, arguably avoidable.
Yeah.
Completely due to a massive increase in heat in that particular area of LA. And economically, the area that was specifically targeted was South LA, which is already economically quite degraded. You know, having these fires come in, and you know, we're not just considering the price of repairing everything that got broken, you know, the insurance payouts and all that, but also have to consider the actual price of getting out. We both know the price of fuel nowadays, particularly in America, is skyrocketing. I'm just going to move on to how environmental degradation is a direct link to economic one. The most obvious example of this is tourism. Across the world, people go to visit certain countries for the purpose of their nature.
Beany, put a background of Milton Keynes with like a waterfall.
Okay.
It would just be a shopping cart.
John, do you feel you got what you deserve today?
I feel physically sick, to be honest. I'm rapidly falling out of love with
Milton Keynes.
And there is a massive biological importance of biodiversity. And the particular importance of that, economically of course, is in the agricultural sector, where we have insect pollination. So instead, farmers are having to use these massive amounts of pesticides and insecticides to kill them. Obviously, that has a negative effect, because it means that the insects themselves die. Brilliant. That one set of crops is now not going to be eaten by insects. Massive problem though, you've killed all your pollinators.
Thank you so much, Henry. Great points. I mean, I think the main message there was not only do they have a direct impact when they occur, but also the future, the sustainability and so on. It's kind of a negative feedback loop is what we call it in geography for me. I think for economists at home, I think we see the multiplier effects with government spending and its impact on the rest of the economy. This is kind of the opposite here. But how do economists and ecologists value nature? I mean, that's where things get really tricky.
Let's chat GPT fuck off, devil.
Yeah.
No, basically. No, can't have that on the GoPro.
You don't help yourself, do you?
The concept of natural capital, from forests, rivers, biodiversity, they're all economic assets. Originally we saw the natural environment was the root of all economics. So we had primary sector industries such as forestry, so on. All trade was centred around goods that you got from the natural environment.
Yeah.
Originally there was no such thing as financial markets, so on. It was all from the environment. We have all come from the environment.
You sold what you were able to get from the environment.
Exactly. I mean, through this environmental damage, we're just kind of destroying the base of our economic infrastructure. And therefore, not only is it like damaging our economic systems at the top level, but also the roots. It's like if you've got a tree that's dying at the roots, how are you expecting the leaves to grow?
High-level economists like to put a monetary value on nature And we get a massive problem there. We get these ideas that they're not valued in a way that they're just not going to bring that money back. But they're wrong. Pharmaceuticals, for example. Venomology, a study of venom, currently being used as the primary research point to tackle cancer.
Your point on the fact that people put a price on nature is a very important one, and I think we're all quite naive at the moment in the way that we think that the direct cost of environmental damage is only like, oh, the loss of species is, oh, we can't make such and such amount of food and so on. There's negative externalities, as we say in the economics world. We're now going to explore what's actually being done about it. From the economic standpoint, one thing I've been focusing on recently is carbon trading permits. So this is kind of a scheme used by many governments. I think it's used in the Eurozone, it's used in many places worldwide, in which you have basically a set permit which has a value for allowing you to pollute a certain amount of carbon. So you're basically putting a price on the carbon.
Yeah.
And what this does is, because there's a set amount of permits, it kind of works in a financial market where you can trade these permits. You can trade the level of pollution that can up the price of pollution, down the price of pollution. I think over time they're going to reduce the number of permits, so not only are you reducing the level of pollution, but you're increasing the cost of that pollution as well.
Yeah.
So that's one method that's kind of being used at the moment. But also I think green growth agenda is another important one. So not only trying to limit your environmental damage through direct economic policies, but also by trying to create a positive new policy, whether it's through net zero targets, investing in renewable energy, which we've seen in the UK through solar energy, wind power off the coast, green jobs, sustainable transport. Henry, what are your thoughts on policies?
Ultimately, some green investments that we're seeing, they are more about image than they are about substance. They are more of how good can we make this look, like inflating it to seem really, really good in a really way. And ultimately, it doesn't work. The only way that it's actually going to, any sort of beneficial, true environmental change, and I mean that word true in the fullest way I can mean it, it requires actual systemic change.
We're now going to test our instincts with a quick fire round of climate and economical dilemmas.
Okay.
Right, so we're on to the side segment, Beany. That's only one thing. Yeah. Cue the lights. So today we're going to be doing a couple rounds of moral and economic dilemmas. I'll basically read out a situation, you'll say whether it will lead to one or the other. It will kind of make sense as we play along. Number one, do you think a ban on all short-haul domestic flights will be an environmental win or an economic collapse?
Economic collapse. Look, I don't know a lot about the aviation industry, particularly domestic. I would imagine it's an environmental win.
Short-haul domestic flights, obviously the quantity and frequency of them is a key issue to address, but these long-haul flights, in which a lot of the time they are the more unnecessary journeys, I'll be honest, those are the more environmental damaging ones. Number two, do you think subsidising beef alternatives is an option or should we tax red meat?
I was a vegetarian for about a year, a vegan for a part of that. Look, I find that the meat alternatives are actually fairly tasty.
You're joking.
That's insane.
I'm all for it, but at the same time, I'm not here to live it right.
But could you say that a lot of these alternatives come from countries far away? Kidney beans from South America, avocados. It said that eating two of those is the same as driving a Volkswagen Golf for a year.
I don't know why they chose a Volkswagen Golf particularly, but there are plenty of local alternatives to eating excessive meat. The UK has actually got quite, people don't realise quite how strong of an agriculture we have in the UK, or potential for, shall I say. But yeah.
Number three, should we allow oil drilling to lower energy prices during inflation?
Absolutely not. They're going to provide immediate relief, sure. There's no way at all that you can justify oil drilling whatsoever. All it does, it just destroys those ecosystems for maybe 3 years maximum of economic relief.
Number four, carbon tax on fast fashion. That's an interesting one.
So I don't know a lot about fashion, but I do know the immoral aspects of sweatshops.
And also, obviously, a lot of fast fashion comes from these developing countries.
Children in particular, but all workers, are not being paid a great deal and they're working in very, absolutely terrible working conditions, you know.
Some good answers there. That is the side segment over. We're now going to be moving on to the final takes. On my part, climate change is not just an environmental threat, it's an economic ticking time bomb. I mean, we've already touched on all the economic impact and the impact of the economy on the environment. Economists and environmentalists must collaborate to rethink value, policy and progress. And I think we touched on policy making. That is obviously the most essential part in addressing these problems.
As far as my knowledge of it goes, capitalism enables materialism.
Yeah, our definition of richness, wealth, must be redefined. I mean, Bob Marley once famously said, "What do you mean by rich?
What do you
My
mean by
richness
rich?
is life."
My richness is life.
And I think that's what we need to take from this. Wealth is not just a number on a spreadsheet, some money in your bank. It is life. We've got to live our life. We've got to have some environmental quality. I mean, if we don't look after ourselves, we're living in a desert, underwater. We only have one Earth, guys.
There is no planet B.
Let's lock in. Unless Mars goes well. But anyway,
I'm just going to leave it with this from me. Nature is more than a shame to lose. If we lose nature, it's not just a case of, oh, that's a shame, we've lost greenery, but moving on. It's like a vine on a tree. It is so intertwined with the economy.
Yeah.
And issues that happen in it will massively impact economies.
Exactly.
Worldwide economies, you know.
Thank you so much, Henry. An engagement question at home. Do you think that capitalism can ever go green, or do you think it's just we can never have green capitalism? Let us know. Our socials will be on the TV screen, and our email will be in the description below, all our stuff. So please get in touch. It is our penultimate episode. It's been a pretty smashing one. Next time we'll try and have a big surprise lined up. Until then, goodbye on my part.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much to everyone for listening, and goodbye.
See you later. No, don't keep that. Don't keep the see you laters on a podcast. It's crazy.
Done.
That's it. That's a wrap. Yeah, I clapped first, so actually.
Yeah. Episode 10 next week. Final episode. If you know anyone famous, we're trying to get Dahl, but realistically, that's probably not going to work. Bojo, that's just not going to happen. If you know anyone famous, or if you're famous yourself, yeah, we can get someone interesting on for the final episode. I think we might try and get all our guests on. Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, and yeah, that's kind of it. It's been a good journey. We'll give a final ceremony next episode. But until then, goodbye.
Yeah, on my thing.
Bojo, that's just not gonna happen.
Even if things can sometimes seem dark now, our future together is golden.